You won't be needed anymore, Harold. Security will escort you out. Damian Crawford didn't whisper it. He wanted the whole room to hear. 10 CEOs? Every one of them flew in from a different country. Tokyo, Munich, Madrid, Oslo, Singapore, Sao Paulo. We're 20 minutes from signing a $1.2 billion deal. Pens are out. Contracts ready. And this 37-year-old kid, who's been CEO for 18 months, decides now is the perfect time to fire me. I'm Harold Pierce. I'm 54. I've spent 18 years building this company's international energy partnerships from nothing. Right now, I'm watching my career get executed in public. But here's what Damian doesn't know. I saw this coming 6 months ago. And the trap I built, he just walked right into it. The words hit me hard. I'll admit that. But I didn't move. I caught Dr. Klaus Zimmerman's eye across the table, the CEO from Munich. He gave me the slightest nod. Not sympathy, recognition. He knew something Damian didn't. 18 years. That's what I gave to Grandview Industries. 18 years of red-eye flights in hotel rooms where the coffee was cold by the time I could drink it. I missed my granddaughter Emma's sweet 16 for a pipeline deal in Norway nobody else could close. She didn't talk to me for a month after that. Still gives me grief about it. My wife died in a car accident 4 years ago. I was in Abu Dhabi when it happened. Couldn't get back in time to say goodbye. That one still keeps me up at night. Some prices are too high, even for a $1 billion deal. After Sarah passed, Emma came to live with me. She's 17 now, just got accepted to Stanford, $80,000 a year. I'm still paying $3,000 a month on Sarah's medical bills from the accident. My retirement plan was simple. Work 11 more years, get full pension, pay for Emma's college, maybe leave her something when I'm gone. I wasn't just some coordinator shuffling papers. I spoke enough Arabic to negotiate without an interpreter in the Gulf states, enough German to catch the mistakes that would have cost millions. My job was building bridges between cultures, contracts, and trust in the energy sector. You know how long it takes to build that kind of trust with a sheikh or a German industrial giant? Years, not months, not LinkedIn connections. Years of handshake deals in private clubs, early morning calls during Ramadan, late-night whiskey meetings where we hammered out pipeline routes nobody else even knew were problems. Damian Crawford was everything I wasn't. Where I listened, he talked about digital transformation. Where I planned for real problems, he planned Instagram posts about disruptive energy solutions. The kid had been writing on deals I'd closed long before he learned the difference between LNG and crude oil contracts. I heard him once in the hallway, didn't think I could hear. He told someone the company needed AI-driven deal analysis and remote-first leadership. That's code. Means I'm too old. Means my 18 years of building relationships in dusty oil fields doesn't matter. Because I need reading glasses and check my blood sugar twice a day. Here's what killed me. Damian kept using these buzzwords. Future-ready executive. Data-driven thinking. You know what data-driven means to guys like Damian? Spreadsheets that can't tell you when a Saudi prince is having family problems that might derail your pipeline deal. Charts that don't show you the moment a German CEO's body language shifts because you used the wrong technical term. Now, he was making his move right here in front of 10 of the most powerful decision makers in global energy business. This wasn't just about firing me. It was about humiliation, about showing everyone that experience was finished, that algorithms could replace decades of relationship building. I didn't stand up right away. My eyes went to my chair at the head of the table. Damian's MacBook was already open there, displaying some PowerPoint about next-generation energy partnerships. He'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. I was pissed. Simple as that. I stood up slowly. Every eye in the room was on me. The air felt different, colder. Let me back up, tell you how I got here. 18 years ago, I was a petroleum engineer with a mechanical degree and a head full of energy industry theory I'd never tested internationally. I was 36. Most people thought I was crazy, leaving a stable engineering job to chase deals in countries where I barely spoke the language. I spent my nights learning languages, mornings on conference calls with time zones I couldn't track without 3 clocks on my wall. By year 3, I could switch from English to Arabic to German in a single conversation about natural gas terminals. I caught the small things, the things that saved contracts from falling apart. I built my reputation on the hard deals, the impossible ones. There was this negotiation in Kuwait, 19 hours straight. We were stuck on one clause about environmental compliance standards. The Kuwaiti side wouldn't budge. Our side couldn't give any more ground. At hour 18, my diabetes was acting up. I was so tired I could barely see straight even with my reading glasses. But I caught something. A mistranslation. One word. The interpreter had used the wrong Arabic term for monitoring versus enforcement. I stopped everything, called for a break, spent 45 minutes with their technical team explaining the difference in English, then Arabic, then back to English with diagrams. Once they understood, we weren't trying to impose oversight, just establish monitoring protocols. The whole thing unlocked. We shook hands 10 minutes before my flight home. That's the kind of work I did. Not sexy, not Instagram-worthy, but it's what built this company's energy business from $200 million to $3.2 billion in annual revenue. Damien stood on a stage 6 months ago, accepted an Industry Excellence Award for a renewable energy deal in Germany. My deal, the one with Klaus Zimmermann. That project had been minutes from collapse over a dispute about grid integration standards. I'd caught a translation error in the technical specifications at 2 a.m. the night before signing. Spent 4 hours on calls with Berlin explaining the difference between European and American electrical standards. Saved the whole thing. Damien never mentioned my name in his acceptance speech. He never had to. The applause washed over him while I sat in the back, knowing I'd just saved his career from its first real failure. Now, here we are, standing in the Grandview Industries boardroom. Damien thought he'd just taken everything from me. He had no idea what he'd just done. I picked up my briefcase. The leather was worn from 18 years of international terminals. Inside was a small hardware security key, no bigger than a USB drive. Standard corporate authentication device. Damien thought firing me would be simple, clean, final. He was wrong about that. Damien's ambush didn't come out of nowhere. It had been building for months, small cuts disguised as strategic modernization initiatives. The first time he used the phrase future-ready leadership, it was over coffee in the executive lounge. Casual, testing how far he could push. I didn't react, just nodded, kept checking my blood sugar monitor. The second time was in a budget meeting. Remote-first capabilities dropped into a presentation like my 18 years of face-to-face relationship building had an expiration date stamped on them. By the third mention, it was investors want under 40 leadership for the energy transition. Nobody in the room challenged him. They just looked down at their tablets and pretended they were checking emails. I'd been in this industry long enough to recognize a coup forming. What I didn't expect was that Damien wouldn't wait for a clean transition. He wanted spectacle, and he chose his stage carefully. Today wasn't just any meeting. This was the day 10 CEOs from across the globe gathered to sign our biggest renewable energy partnership ever. 8 time zones represented in one room. $1.2 billion on the table. He knew the cameras would be in the hallway, the assistants on standby, the stakes sky high. He didn't want me quietly replaced in a Monday morning email blast. He wanted my removal to be part of his big moment, his coronation as the future of energy leadership. 20 minutes before the meeting started, my phone buzzed. Nicole Barnes, one of the few assistants I actually trusted. Her text was short. He brought her. She's in the hall waiting. I knew who her was, Jennifer Walsh, or the so-called strategic hire Damien had been grooming to take my place. 29 years old, MBA from Stanford. Great at creating energy transition roadmap presentations. Couldn't negotiate her way through a simple offtake agreement. I stared at that text for a long moment. I was angry, but I didn't show it. After 18 years, you learn to keep your cards close. I adjusted my jacket, reviewed the seating chart one last time, carried on like nothing had changed. A second notification lit up my screen. This one wasn't meant for me. An internal email Damien had accidentally copied me on 2 weeks ago. I'd saved it. Subject line, photo documentation, leadership transition after signing ceremony. The body of the email detailed where the photographer should position himself. Best angle to capture the wide shot of next-generation leadership replacing legacy management. Me being the legacy management. He wanted my removal documented, packaged, circulated as proof of his visionary leadership. In that moment, I'll be honest, I felt helpless. There was nothing I could do to stop him from walking into that room and staging his little power play. But under that helplessness was something else: certainty. He was walking straight into a trap he didn't even know existed. Let me tell you about the continuity clause. It started as an idea 6 months earlier, right around the time Damien won that award for my German deal. I was sitting in my office late one night, reading preliminary contracts for this $1.2 billion partnership, thinking about Emma's college tuition and my medical bills. And I thought about all the times I'd seen deals fall apart because of sudden leadership changes. A handshake means nothing if the person who gave it is gone the next day. Trust evaporates. The whole thing collapses. So I drafted some language: simple, neutral, professional. If the principal liaison named in this agreement is replaced or removed at any point before final execution, all memorandums of understanding are automatically void. Void, that's the key word. Not subject to renegotiation, not requires mutual consent to modify. Void, dead, over. The clause didn't mention me by name, but in every draft, every revision, every preliminary document these 10 CEOs signed, I was listed as the principal liaison. Here's the thing: I couldn't present it as self-protection. That would have raised red flags, made people nervous. So I framed it differently. I made it about respect for their time and investment. I used every relationship I'd built over 18 years. When I talked to Klaus Zimmerman about wind farm integration, I explained how this protected his company's technical investment. With Akira Nakamura from Tokyo about offshore platforms, I emphasized the risk mitigation for their engineering specs. With the Saudi delegation about solar installations, I used my Arabic and talked about maintaining trust relationships in long-term energy partnerships. You invest months of technical planning, I told each of them. You deserve to know the person who understands your specifications will be there until the contracts are finalized. One by one, they agreed. Some saw it as protection against corporate chaos. Others liked the quiet leverage it gave them. A few understood exactly what I was doing and approved anyway. And Damien? He signed off on the contract drafts without a second look. Too busy with AI analytics dashboards and press releases about revolutionizing global energy. Partnerships. The continuity clause was buried in paragraph 12 under mutual obligations and relationship maintenance. Damien never read past the executive summary on anything. I remember when Klaus lingered after a video call about turbine specifications. His voice dropped low. "Harold, if this young man tries to push you aside, we will leave the table. All of us. No drama, just business reality." That's the kind of loyalty you can't buy with LinkedIn posts or TikTok videos about energy innovation. You earn it over years, over deals where you protected their technical interests like they were your own family's future. The continuity clause was only the first lock. The second was smaller, more personal. Everything on that table looked final, pages thick with clauses, signatures already in place from each CEO. But those were drafts, legally binding in appearance only. The real enforceable versions required one last thing: my encrypted digital signature. Without it, those documents were just expensive paper. That signature wasn't stored on any company server, never was. It lived on a hardware security key. The one in my briefcase, the device I mentioned earlier. I carried it everywhere: Kuwait, Germany, Japan, Norway. Even today. The system was my idea. Came up 3 years ago after a close call where a competitor almost slipped falsified approvals into a wind farm deal while I was in transit between Oslo and Dubai. Would have cost us $600 million if our legal team hadn't caught it. After that, I went to our general counsel, Patricia Foster. Smart woman. We designed a secure signing process together. Once my token was authenticated and my passcode entered, the signature would timestamp the final contract. Ironclad, verifiable, legal. If anyone tried to access the files without authorization, the system would flag it immediately. Alerts would go out to my personal attorney and an external law firm we kept on retainer. The best part? The system was approved and implemented 3 years ago, before Damien's time. He inherited it, never questioned it, probably never even knew the technical details. I could feel the weight of that token in my briefcase as Damien strutted around the boardroom. He thought firing me in front of 10 CEOs had stripped away every bit of leverage I had. But leverage doesn't vanish when you leave the room. Not real leverage. It follows the chain of trust, and I still held the final link. The moment I stepped away from my chair, something shifted. I didn't speak, didn't protest, just pushed my chair in with the same care I'd used setting up the room hours earlier. That silence meant something. If you've been in enough boardrooms, you know, silence like that means something's about to go sideways. Around the table, pens that had been hovering over contracts slowly lowered. Pages that had been spread open got drawn together, stacked neatly. I caught eyes meeting across the oval. Quick glances, calculations happening in real time. Damien didn't notice. Or maybe he noticed but thought it was deference, respect for his authority. He moved into my seat, started flipping through contracts like a man who'd already won. "Let's proceed," he said, trying to sound confident, trying to recapture the momentum I'd built over 6 months of his careful technical negotiations. But momentum in energy deals is fragile. It lives in trust. And the trust in that room had just walked out with me. Damien spent the first few minutes reciting boilerplate language about renewable energy transition objectives and carbon-neutral partnership metrics, stuff anyone could read off a PowerPoint slide. Then Klaus spoke up, the CEO from Munich. He leaned back in his chair, his voice calm, direct. "Mr. Crawford, could you clarify the technical specifications in Appendix C regarding grid integration and protocols?" The question hung in the air. Appendix C wasn't just technical jargon, it was the cornerstone, the thing that balanced electrical engineering requirements across 8 different national grid systems. I'd written it, negotiated it, defended it through 12 revisions and twice as many engineering calls. Damien had never been in the room for any of those discussions. I watched him freeze for just a second. His eyes darted to the page, scanning, looking for something that would give him an answer. "Well," he began, "Appendix C addresses the scope of..." Akira Nakamura cut him off. The CEO from Tokyo. His English was precise, careful. "Without Harold, who ensures our technical standards are properly implemented?" That wasn't a question looking for an answer. That was an indictment. Around the table, subtle movements started. Sofia Rodriguez from Madrid closed her leather folder with a quiet snap. Dr. Peterson from Oslo capped his pen, set it precisely in the center of his notepad. Klaus didn't break his gaze from Damien. From the corner of the room, 2 technical interpreters quietly gathered their translation equipment. They walked toward the door without a word. One of the engineering consultants followed them out. The sound of that door closing was louder than it should have been. Damien's voice started to falter. His sentences got thinner. He flipped pages too quickly, using speed to mask the fact that he had no idea what he was talking about. The silence in the room wasn't empty anymore. It was full of calculation, full of unspoken conclusions, full of the knowledge that this meeting wasn't moving toward signatures anymore. It was moving toward exits. I stayed where I was, a few steps back from the table, briefcase over my shoulder, hands loose at my sides. I didn't need to speak. In rooms like this, silence says everything. Then it happened. The thing Damien should have seen coming, but didn't. Klaus stood up slowly. His chair scraped against the marble floor. That sound in a room like that means the deal's dead. He smoothed his jacket. His voice carried the weight of a final verdict. As per the continuity clause, our memorandum is now void. Without the named technical liaison, there is no agreement. He wasn't asking. He wasn't negotiating. He was stating a fact. For a moment, Damien didn't move. He seemed to think he could talk his way out of this, the way he talked his way through everything. "We can still move forward," he started, gesturing at the folders. "We have consensus on the framework." But Klaus was already closing his briefcase. He walked toward the door without another glance. That was the crack in the dam. Sophia stood next, muttered something to her aide in Spanish, followed Klaus out. Dr. Peterson leaned to his interpreter, nodded once, started gathering his papers. Damien's voice rose, that brittle edge creeping in that happens when someone realizes they're losing control. "If we could all just please sit down, we can resolve any technical concerns." They didn't even look at him. I stayed still, hands folded. This wasn't my fight to win anymore. I'd already won it the moment Damien removed me. Now I was just watching the inevitable play out. Akira moved next. He walked the length of the table, his hand extended. Not to Damien, to me. His grip was firm, steady. You were always the foundation, Harold-san, he said quietly. His eyes locked with mine for a beat. Then he released my hand and turned toward the door. Damien heard it. I saw his jaw tighten, panic flash behind his eyes. Near the end of the table, Sophia stood but didn't take her pen with her. She set it down in the center of her open folder, ink tip facing away from her. In certain energy industry circles, that gesture is understood. The pen left behind means the deal is over permanently. Damien saw it too. He stepped toward her, voice cracking slightly. We can fix this. Just give me a... The door closed behind her before he could finish. One by one, the seats emptied. Tokyo, Munich, Madrid, Oslo, Singapore, Sao Paulo, Dubai, London, Sydney, Mexico City. All 10 of them. Not a single one stayed. What remained at the table were untouched water glasses, scattered translation headsets, and the faint echo of expensive shoes on marble fading down the hallway. I almost smiled. Almost. I was halfway down the marble hallway when the first raised voice reached me. Damien, sharp, brittle, the sound of someone whose world just collapsed. I slowed down, pretended to check my phone. Actually checked my blood sugar while I was at it. Stress does things to diabetes. The words carried through the half-open conference doors. Get legal on the line now. Chair scraped. Someone fumbled with a speakerphone. Our chief counsel's voice came through, clipped and clear. Damien, without the named liaison's participation in final signing, Clause 12 voids all memorandums. And without his encrypted signature, the system will not authenticate the contracts. A pause, long enough for me to picture his face going pale. We'll override it. You can't. It's hard-coded. Even attempting to bypass would trigger legal alerts to external counsel. Silence. Then the faint click of a laptop opening. A groan. He was staring at the message I knew would be there. Final signature authentication required. Contracts pending validation. An email notification pinged. Sharp. Urgent. A moment later, a junior staffer came rushing out, phone in hand, whispering frantically to another assistant. I caught fragments as they hurried past me. From Munich, sent to the board. Said they don't work with technical instability? Perfect. I could hear Damien inside, still trying to control the narrative. Draft a statement, market confidence, strong technical leadership. No one says void. No one says withdrawal. His voice kept rising, like volume could rewrite reality. But reality was moving faster than him. The elevator doors slid shut, cutting off the sound completely. I smiled then. Small, private. I didn't need to see the panic to know exactly what it looked like. Outside, the October air hit different, sharper. I walked slowly down the granite steps, each one lighter than the last. Halfway across the plaza, my phone buzzed. Klaus Zimmermann. I stepped aside, let the crowd of pedestrians flow past. Klaus. Harold, my friend, I believe you have already heard the outcome inside. I have. Good. We would like you to serve as our technical director for the next phase of this project, not as an employee of your former company. As an independent contractor, full technical authority, and the budget to match. Independent contractor, full technical authority. Those words meant everything. That's generous, I said. It's deserved. Without you, there is no technical foundation for trust. We want the foundation. We talked for a few more minutes, sketched out what would become my new role. The compensation was 40% higher than I'd ever earned under Damien. The autonomy was absolute. When the call ended, my phone vibrated again. Text from Akira. If you are available, we would like to bring you on to lead our portion of the venture. Same technical requirements, only if you are at the helm. 2 offers in less than 10 minutes. A third notification appeared. Unfamiliar number. We are prepared to sign once Harold Pierce is confirmed as lead technical coordinator. A major institutional investor who'd been on the fence for months. I stood there, city noise blurring around me. In the space of a single morning, Damien had lost the confidence of the entire global energy consortium while I'd been handed the keys to it. I walked toward a quiet coffee shop a few blocks away. Seemed like the right place to start drafting my own terms. After 18 years of building technical bridges for someone else to walk across, I was finally deciding where they led. That was 3 months ago. Now I'm sitting in my new office. corner suite, 31st floor, standing desk, because my back's not getting any younger. The view overlooks the port where my first LNG tanker docked back in 2009. Full circle. I'm not a contractor anymore. I founded my own firm, Pierce Energy Solutions. Boutique consulting specializing in international energy partnerships. 4 of the CEOs from that day are founding partners with me. Klaus, Akira, Sophia, and Dr. Peterson from Oslo. The deal we closed last week, $1.4 billion, 12 CEOs. Larger than what Damien lost. The circle I drew was bigger than the one he tried to erase me from. There's a knock on my door. Klaus steps in, that same measured confidence, but now there's something else. Partnership, equal footing. Harold, the contracts are finalized. We've all signed. Yours is the last signature. I open the folder, my name printed cleanly at the top. Chief Technical Director, not buried in footnotes, standing in bold. We walk into the conference room. I sit at the head of the table. When the conversation begins, my hand brushes something at the corner, a pen, sleek, black. The one Sophia left behind on that table 3 months ago. The quiet symbol that the deal was over without me. Thought you should have it, Klaus says. Belongs to the person who kept the technical integrity honest. I turn the pen in my hand. The weight of it isn't physical. It's 18 years. 18 years of flights and sacrifices and quiet victories that belong to someone else's PowerPoint presentations. Until now. When it's time to sign, the room goes quiet. No cameras, no applause, just the sound of pen on paper. I cap the pen, set it on the table in front of me. The victory isn't about proving Damien wrong. It's about proving myself right all along. About Emma's college tuition being secure. About Sarah's medical bills finally getting paid off. About leaving something real behind. Emma starts Stanford next month. Full ride scholarship, actually. Turns out when you're the founder of a successful energy consulting firm, your granddaughter's applications get some extra attention. She earned it, though. 4.0 GPA, debate team captain, wants to study environmental engineering. Sarah would have been proud. Oh, and Damien? Heard through the industry grapevine he got fired 5 weeks after the Grandview disaster. Board couldn't ignore the fact that he'd torpedoed a $1.2 billion deal in front of 10 witnesses. Last I heard, he's working for a mid-sized renewable firm in Chicago. Reports to a 58-year-old VP who doesn't care about his AI analytics or Instagram followers. Sometimes experience wins after all.